Somehow I ran into an article entitled Childless-by-choice women are a big part of society's deterioration. Just from the title, we know that this author's perspective is going to be very assertive, very aggressive, really trying to persuade you and potentially in extremely dismissive ways. When I have someone tell me things like that on a topic like this, I tend to have my personal defenses up already. We'll see how this goes. I'm going to read it through it and comment on it as I go along so that it stays pretty organized. And in the description, I'll be sure to share the link. The Childless-by-choice movement has taken 30-somethings by storm and is now trickling down to women in their 20s, single or otherwise, as soon as they see their life as a possession that children destroy. The way that I was raised was, if you want to ruin your life, get pregnant as a teenager. And I am glad that I was told that at such an early age, because had I had a kid during the time that I was an adolescent, my struggle, my difficult life as I know it presently, would have been even worse, especially considering that the culture that surrounds me is not very supportive. And of course, any partners that I may have had back then, I don't think would have been up to the job anyway, because their struggles are very similar to my struggles. So two struggling people, unless we are very willing and open to allow others to be involved in our betterment, it would have been extremely difficult. I'll tell you that much. We would have needed a lot of guidance, and I don't believe that that guidance would have been available or optimal for us. I cannot even count the number of articles I've seen on this topic. She links one, but we're not gonna read it, in which the author names a few basic reasons why she is confident she'll never want kids, with the grand conclusion that her personal happiness is most important, and that children put that happiness in dire danger. I think it is important for you as an individual to be able to achieve a degree of happiness, because there is nothing that sucks more than living this life dissatisfied, lacking excitement, experiencing continuous stress, not getting the support that you need, and putting your personal value either aside or making it non-existent. For those of you guys who have commented on how much I be glowing these days compared to years ago, there is one thing that I can tell you that is different about me now from back then, despite me having been younger back then, and that is I prioritized myself. I was afraid of doing that, and I was afraid of doing that because of this, who say that you are not important, that your feelings don't matter, that you don't have a right to be happy, that your pursuits are selfish. Bullshit like that is what depressed me, to the point that I was starting to not function properly as a human being or a member of this society. I did not deserve that. That was unfair. I lost years of my fucking life that I will not get back. So no, I'm not going to let you tell me that my happiness does not matter. I, as an individual, need to prioritize my health, my well-being, and happiness. But you're trying to tell me that me, as a woman who is supposed to be pushing out babies, shouldn't do that. Fuck you! The piece went viral, and it's far from the first proud declaration against procreation. Don't get me wrong, I'm thrilled women are able to separate their feminine worth from their desire and ability to bear children. That's a huge step for social progress. And now, in a sense, you are countering the statement that you just said, but I'm afraid it's taken us in the wrong direction. The reasons these women are touting, sacrificing sleep, money, and time, to name a few, don't defend a woman's right to be childless. They defend a woman's right to be selfish. I don't see what is wrong with that. I think that sleep is important, because there are some people out here who are terrible without sleep. your job performance suffers, and that means that the rest of your team suffers when you're being a slacker, your attitude changes, your enthusiasm is non-existent. We don't have to put up with people who lack a soul because physiologically they are not healing due to a lack of sleep. But you're telling me, sure, have a child, fuck your sleep cycle, somehow just make it work. A lot of people who have kids and are sleepless, some of y'all are difficult to be around because your body has not healed due to not getting the proper sleep. But again, I gotta sacrifice my happiness and well-being because I gotta be a parent. Don't get me wrong, being a parent is extremely admirable. I am eternally grateful for all of the things that my mother did for me, the sacrifices that she made, and everything so that my brother and I could be okay. My fucking dad didn't do that. He did none of that. I resent the fact that he didn't do any of that because he went on to live a great life and my mom didn't. But sure, you have to be okay with that. At least we were not difficult children. Imagine if we would have been. Money, here's some news. It's fucking important. Have you seen how expensive education has gotten? Cars have gotten, groceries have gotten, medicine, doctors. I don't get to go to the fucking doctor because I fear the medical bill. But you're telling me, sure, have a child who's going to destroy your body in ways that you won't be able to afford to repair, but you have to do this because otherwise you're selfish. Time. Sorry to tell you, but time is something that you don't get back. You don't get refunds on. You don't get to reclaim. You don't get to repair from, say, oh, I wasted my time on a stupid ass fucking abusive relationship. Let me get that time back and my youth back so that I can have another opportunity at reconstructing my life, living my life right. Time is something that is simply not negotiable. Some of us simply do not have time for children, and that is okay. We don't even have time to date properly these days. We barely have time to spend at our jobs because the more time that we spend at our jobs, that means that it's costing us something somewhere. Say your health, your well-being, mental, physical, emotional. Work is getting more difficult and the pay is staying the same. And you're telling me that I need to bring a child into this world when my growth and progress is very slow. Whereas children grow pretty fast and their demands do not wait for my economic status to get better. People's time costs money. That's literally how you get paid, for spending time somewhere performing a task. So what if I want to be selfish? You're telling me that I don't have a right to live my life? You know what would be selfish and irresponsible? I have the fucking kid and I still want to have a career. I still want to have all these things that take me away from kids, and I know it, but I refuse to accept that that is a problem and instead say society is problematic. Society doesn't support me with having children. Society looks down on me if I try to have a career while being a mother. You cannot be a mother and have a career full time and expect for your kids to turn out well. Some of us are smart enough to figure that out and remain responsible and say, until I put myself in a situation when I can be a truly responsible parent, I'm not going to have kids. I think what would be selfish is for me to have a child, especially to trap a man and still expect to have all the great things that I demand and expect because I'm a fucking diva and queen and I'm a goddess who you gotta worship. Like a lot of women tend to act, and you use children as literal weapons and shields. This push for preserving self above all else takes us down a dangerous path. One that's not particularly safe for the individual and one that will surely lead to the deterioration for society as a whole. We live in a culture where personal freedom and comfort have gone from privileges to our top priorities. We have long lost the beauty of sacrifice. And while I do agree that our society is deteriorating because we're not raising a generation properly to replace the generation now that's leaving, retiring, or dying. I think that it is important for you to figure yourself out so that you have a legacy to pass down. A lot of people who are having kids these days are actually pretty clueless. Then your children end up being clueless as well. And then we're throwing clueless adults into society. Here's some news for you. A lot of people keep changing their majors when they go to college or dropping out altogether and regretting those decisions. Why? Because they lacked direction. They lacked orientation. Orientation that needs to come from parents. Parents who are absent at home because they have to work to make money, to be able to survive in this fucking greedy ass capitalistic society that is the United States. Personal freedom and comfort should not be privileges. It should be something that's granted to you. But now we have to fight for things that should be a given. So hell yeah, they're going to be top priorities. Why is it that a small number of people get to enjoy that shit, but the rest of us don't? Now, when it comes to the beauty of sacrifice, I can say that that is a fair line, but it's just used incorrectly. It's used in the inappropriate topic, because I am a fan of sacrificing. When I sacrifice something, it means that I get to learn more about its value and I appreciate it more, and I don't take shit for granted, because taking shit for granted really leads to a fuck ton of problems. And that is something that deserves its own video, especially taking people for granted in your personal life. Like, say, relationships, your parents, anybody who gives you any kind of support in your personal life or development. I think that it is worthy to sacrifice for the people who better you. I can't promise that you'll be happier if you have children, but I can promise you this. If you only live a life of self, if you continue to cherish personal freedom and protect everything you quote unquote deserve over giving of yourself to others, you won't thrive. That is a problem. You're telling me that I have to gamble. Let me have a child, or let me have children. And it may not make me happier, but sacrificing myself for beings who do not make me feel happy, satisfied, or that I'm prepared for, especially to lead responsibly, just do it, because otherwise you won't thrive. I think the problem here is that people have varying definitions of what it means to be successful. And I think that you are incredibly traditional. Traditional people do not tend to have opportunities to explore outside of the reality that they have known for a long time. And I think that is a problem. I think that modern days is good from the perspective that we are able to discover more about humanity that we otherwise wouldn't have discovered due to a lack of access to that information or access to those experiences. But at the same time, it becomes a problem when it goes unregulated, unrestricted, not balanced. And I think that that is where we as society are starting to struggle. It's like, oh, I too want to dream of visiting other countries and stuff, but you become too consumed by that to where you do not know how to find happiness with other things that could be satisfying and fulfilling. So while I do believe that giving yourself to others is a noble thing, it's not something that's sustainable, especially in modern days. Because let me give you an example. Social media, you get bombarded by hundreds of people, maybe thousands. You start adding people who you have met or known casually, whatnot, and you start keeping up with them. When you keep up with them, you're sacrificing something that we talked about, which is time. In your quest to be up in everybody's business because you're trying to feel connected and stay on track of what everybody else is doing, people who don't contribute anything to your life, that time you're sacrificing, you could be using instead on bettering yourself. You could be using it to sleep, to work out, to work on your personal relationships, to work on your home, to work on the improvement of your home. Little things like that. Thinking only about what's good for you won't lead to a happy life. Now that I need you to explain, because I don't know about you guys, but when I'm happy, people around me can be happy as well because I'm better able to serve them. When a couple is happy, everyone benefits because that couple, as a couple, is able to be there for others and help them in better ways. Now, when I'm in a bad mood, it shows. Because as much as I try to still show up to my job and I do everything, I fulfill everything, my mood being different means that I put my guard up and I don't let people come in. I shut everyone out and I am not as cool or fun. I think if you prioritize your happiness, when you are happy, you have energy, you have enthusiasm, you have burning desires, you're out there and nothing can stop you. You are at peak performance. But when you're sad, miserable, and stressed, it comes out somewhere. If it doesn't come out in public, it comes out in your home. You reflected on your kids. You reflected on your husband. You reflected on your parents. You reflected on your pets. Why? Because that life lacks love, and true love requires selflessness and sacrifice. And who says that I cannot love selflessly and full of sacrifice without children? I do it every fucking day of my life, but you don't see that. Because to you, the only people who are capable of doing that for some reason is children, which I get. Children are vulnerable and innocent and their time in the earth has been pretty limited, whatever. But still, you are invalidating the way that I perceive, process, experience, express love. Don't talk to me about how to love and where to love and whom to love, because I know how to do that selflessly. You, on the other hand, by posting articles like this tells me that you cannot love women simply for thinking and feeling differently from you. To me, you sound like an individual who has lived a pretty privileged life. Privileged life meaning you had support. Let it be from your family, your parents, your spouse. You were invested in. Not all of us can say that. Maybe you even have an education. Maybe you even have a degree. Those things have become privileges. Those things have become things that should be granted to us as members of this society. But some of us have to forego because it's simply not a path that we can follow if we hope to survive, because of the cost of surviving. But for some reason, that doesn't matter to you. Giving up your own life for the flourishing of another isn't subservient, backward thinking. It isn't toxic, as pop psychology often calls it. No, it's more like heroism. It's Harry Potter, the Iron Giant, Frodo Baggins, a glimpse of Jesus Christ on the cross. We love these characters because their complete personal sacrifice is so exceptional. Reflections of that type of sacrifice toward your colleagues, community, friends, and family are part of a life full of love. Again, it's not realistic for all of us to manifest in such manner, all because we're out here trying to survive. That type of thinking would be better suited if we as a society, as a country, as a community, were actually united. But we are not, because we are very divided on many issues. We're divided on issues about stupid weapons, gender, relationships, jobs. You don't even want to value the contributions of people who work customer service. You don't value them until you don't have them. You contradict your own self. Why? Because you are too scared to discover the truth of who and what you are. And maybe, fucking maybe, in your effort to be selfless and giving yourself to others, you lost track of your own self. You are an individual walking around without a sense of self-identity because you don't know who you are. The rest of us are saying, I know who I am, I know what I am, and in my personal case, no, I don't want kids. I was not raised to be a mother. I am not prepared mentally, emotionally, nor financially. Physically, feel pretty confident that I am. In addition, it's not something that I desire. I have never ever dreamed of that. I have dreamed of the idea of having children, but idealizations are terrible. I think that I am a heroine by actually being honest, and as opposed to bringing a kid that I am going to need help with, help that I am not going to get, and it's a weight on my shoulders that I won't be able to bear. I think that it's heroic of me to arrive to the conclusion that having children is not a wise move. But someone like you, who probably comes from a privileged background, would not be able to understand that because you live in a goddamn fucking bubble. And I'm here to burst it. I have never even held a child in my arms, and I don't care to. The only way I'll do so is if there's an emergency and I need to save this child's life. But outside of that, no, I do not have that maternal instinct. Am I living a life without love? No, not at all. But when I do interact with the occasional child here and there, I can find them adorable. I can find certain aspects of them adorable. But when I think about them, the bigger picture, I'm not fantasizing about children. Like, the fantasy life of children is not mine. It doesn't come from me. Those thoughts and feelings do not come from me. I was not born to be a mom in this society. Maybe if I would have been raised differently, if I would have been trained differently, if my society were different, if it were more focused on children, then sure. But education, especially in the area where I live at the very least, because I'm not sure if all of the United States really sucks with education. If I knew that, say, when I send my kids to school, it's actually going to be a fulfilling experience, then I wouldn't have any issues. But I would want to take my kids' educations into my own hands. But here's some news. I have to work because life is expensive. And even if I got married to someone who's rich, I still think that it's my responsibility to still be present in this community and in this society. And I am not going to reject a man who's from like my socio-economic status or lower or slightly higher. I'm not going to reject him because I should have a rich man instead to provide better for me and my kids. It should be my man has dignity and is responsible and works and is able to provide, and I'm able to co-provide as well. That would be a more optimal life. But these days, depending on what kind of job you have, you simply don't make enough. And remember, children take time. Are you trying to say that men who are poor do not deserve to be fathers, or women who are poor do not deserve to have children, or should still have children regardless of their social status? If this were a society that allows for us to have a life that costs very minimal to maintain, then sure, I could consider it. But I'm not going to contemplate having children when financially I'm not supported. And I shouldn't have to push my man to pursue something greater. It should be he gets up, goes out to work, and that suffices, regardless of industry. But no, some of y'all value a man who has to be away for 12 hours, 16 in some cases, but sure, he brings back the $1 million paycheck. But then what? You're lonely. You're alone. You're depressed. You don't feel the protection of your man. You get men on the side to satisfy you. And all this bullshit. But you resent the fact that you only see your man maybe one day out of the week. And when you do see him, he's probably too tired to be excited about going out on adventures. No, women don't need to have kids. I'm glad that you say that. But I argue that for a fulfilled life, you do need to participate in something that requires the curtailing of your freedom, desire, and personal needs. A child is not exclusively what can do that, what can make you do that. People like me already do that without kids, but you're trying to say that only through kids can you achieve that. Giving birth is the most tangible way to do this. No, it isn't. I have other ways I can do that. I can care for my elderly parents. I can sacrifice my career in the name of spending more time with them. But you're trying to say that I guess because they're old and on their way out, that they're not as valuable because it's all about the children. I don't know. Maybe I have a handicapped partner as well who needs me to be extra for him, demands more time of me to be present. Like, say, as opposed to me spending the night going out whenever I feel like it, maybe I need to be present here to be able to support him when he needs to have his necessities fulfilled. What do you want me to do? Throw him on the street? Also, I don't know about you, but I work pretty hard, especially for a woman. And physically, I'm still mostly whole. That is a pretty tangible way. I feel pain, I sweat, I bleed, I get fatigued, I go to bed feeling gravity crushing me. But no, giving birth is the only tangible way. And I give myself, like, the job that I show up to, it can be a pretty thankless job at times, especially when I deserve all the praise and appreciation in the world. I don't get it. And I'm not sitting here crying about not getting it. That is a sacrifice. And it's a sacrifice for my community, actually. Which, I don't know about you, but a community exceeds in numbers the number of children that you have in your home. And the community consists of elders, young people, young adults, older adults, infants, pets. By no means the only way. So if it's by no means the only way, why are you saying this? It's absolutely within your realm of choice and privilege to not literally give birth to life. But if it's not through procreation, then please, for the sake of the world my children will live in, please find other ways to give life to others. We already do that. We get firemen who put themselves in danger, rescuing people of burning homes, establishments, edifices, mountains, forests. We got nurses, the people who were working at hospitals during the pandemic. A lot of those people gave life in many ways that your sorry ass probably will never give life. They helped extend some people's lives, the lives of those who were existing. You're probably one of them pro-life people, but you don't really know how to support your own being pro-life mentality. You're pro-life only for like unborn babies, which aren't even full life yet. They shouldn't even count as life. Engage in something that prevents you from being the permanent center of your universe. Your psychologist might be encouraging it, but the do what's best for me thing is new. Participating in the flourishing of others is as old as time and more gratifying, productive, and powerful than years of uninterrupted sleep and complete personal freedom. Again, we do that. You're trying to say that we don't do this if we decide to be childless, that somehow this is not achievable. Like, within your own article, you're contradicting yourself, because the literal title of your article is that childless women are a problem. We are the deterioration of society. But within the same article, you're trying to be like, okay, well, if you're not going to have kids, at least try to be involved in bettering other lives. Who says that we don't? You think that women who don't have kids are just sitting at home, chilling? Like, the whole reason I'm making this video is because I dedicate at least one day out of the week to like escape and be a human who enjoys being human, not pressuring myself with the stress of bills and having to hustle. I'm allowing my body to heal, my mind to heal. For what? So that I can be happy. For what? So that I can continue to hold on to my job, even if my job does not like bring me as much happiness anymore, but I can bring that happiness to the job. Yes, bearing, loving, and raising children has turned my life upside down. I have lost myself and my freedom and been utterly confused about my purpose. Amazing things tend to do that to you, shake you so hard that you drop everything and have to find it all over again, put it back together in a better place. No one enjoys getting up at 3 a.m. to a crying baby, wiping someone else's butt, or worrying about the financial strain that surrounds giving our kids a good education. There you go. You're losing yourself. You're losing your mind. Happy yet? The child movement seems to insinuate we're unaware of the work slaving away like 50s housewives with no other option. I wish that we could be stay-at-home mothers. I would probably do it. Quite the opposite. We're working for something bigger than the moment. We're sacrificing now for the future. We're giving life to someone else, often for their benefit over our own. That's not delusional. It's beautiful. It can be beautiful, but in some cases it isn't. Because psychologically, not everyone is well equipped to deal with that. And then we end up having parents who want to see their kids become what they were not able to become themselves and ruin their kids' lives. This rant illustrates my point exactly. Yes, she has every right to not have children, but there are good reasons to not have children, and these simply aren't them. She's giving self-admittedly a spoiled and selfish explanation of why she won't have kids and disguising it as social progress. It makes surface sense to apply this author's "I don't want to get out of my comfort zone" feelings toward children, because no one wants to see children with a mother who's not willing to nurture them, and so we cheer her on. But truth be told, she's going to have to confront these issues anytime she wants something worth hard work. And you see, that I can agree with. Being stuck in the comfort zone can lead to consequences. I have been there, and in some things I am there. But what if my comfort zone is exactly what I was working for, working toward? Just because it isn't something full of grandeur doesn't mean that it's not valuable. There are a lot of things to me that are free, that I don't actually get with money, that bring me the most joy. I wish more people were like that. I've heard a lot of touching stories about people passing on their life advice on their deathbeds or while dealing with a terminal diagnosis. Here's one I've never heard. I wish I had more time to myself in my 30s, had more nights partying, and had fewer family dinners. Gosh darn it, why did I spend that cash on my son's 4th birthday party instead of another pair of Jimmy Choos? And damn it, if I had only gotten more sleep and touched fewer people with my nurturing and compassion, if only I had sacrificed less and hoarded more, if only I had the love of fewer people. It's so very 28 of us to want what we want when we want it. You know why we are like that? Because of this capitalistic society that made everything be on demand. Psychologically, we are broken down. You sound bold and brazen at 28, but what about 82? You think you are making a grand feminist choice. You think you're saying that you, in all your liberated thinking, have risen above a decade of wiping butts and cleaning high chair trays and vacuuming minivans, that you are wise enough to escape the lifetime of worry and burden that children saddle you with. But what you're really saying is that you're an island, the only one worth serving, that your offspring are not worth your blood, sweat, and tears, which is your call to make. Just make sure you find something that is worth it, because blood, sweat, and tears, that's what life is all about. I agree with that. But guess what? There's people out there who do those very things for a living. But I guess for you, the way that you're emotionally fulfilled is just extra compared to some of us. Because for me, it means a lot when someone feels like I have changed the way that they think. And the way that they think is not I made them have my opinion and feelings on an issue. Is I said, hey, I think that you are limiting your thinking capacity. Don't be afraid to go deeper and deeper and deeper and deeper and deeper. Some people are superficial people. I hate that. Don't be afraid of forcing people beneath the surface. When I'm able to persuade somebody into having a deep, complicated, tough risky conversation, that feels amazing. And that is something that some of you cannot handle. I am doing those things for people, just differently. And it doesn't have to necessarily happen in my own home. Eventually, those things will arrive in my own home when I'm going to have to sacrifice my sleep and give my time and clean somebody else. But for me, that time is not now. But when it arrives, I shall embrace it. And no, people who are like me are not an island. We don't think that we're the only ones worth serving. People like that have other issues that have gone untreated for a long time. Some of us, it's possible for us to not have kids, but still be absolutely selfless, full of love, and having a lot of love to give. All right, guys, that's it from me. Thank you so much for tuning in. I'll see you later.